Hello. This week it's going to be a bit different because what I thought I'd do is I'd talk you through these three buildings. They have featured in some of my previous unboxings, and they're from the Micro World. Now, I didn't know that he actually had a website because I actually found him through eBay, and his name on there is 6236 Neil, I think. But before I go on to talk about it, I just want to say that I've got no connection with Microworld at all, and I'm not being paid to say this or review it or anything else. I just basically asked the chap if he'd mind me featuring it on my channel because I'm using them, and I just want to share what I think with other people out there that are building. And for me, the main reason why I went for these is because I'm hobbying on a bit of a budget. So, I was looking for things that are going to put a bit of interest on my table, but not necessarily break my pocket. I don't mind spending out, birthday presents and Christmas presents for some of the bigger pieces that I've got. But the rest of it I like to make myself and or adapt from cheaper pieces. So just I know other people do that, so I thought I'd better make it clear that I'm not connected. So I'm not trying to promote these. I'm just telling you what I think of them. Um, and basically, I bought them as two lots. This one, although there's two sheets here, this one is two different buildings, one on each side. And this first one, it ends up looking something like this, like a shop front. It describes it as a damaged building front. And the reason why I went for them is because I've got two 3D printed models that I've also featured on the channel. And they matched brickwork wise with them. They seem to sit very well with, what I'm looking for my Arnhem build. So that's what made me, when I was going through on eBay and I seen these, I thought, yeah, I could make them match the other buildings. So that's why I purchased these. And like I say, this one, KO39, is described as a damaged building front, but to me it looks a bit like a shop. And that KO39, I think I paid, I think it was 14.95, and then perhaps £3 for delivery. So as you can see, it was more of a budget item. And then on the other side, you've got like a damaged corner building. Whether you can see that. And what's this one? It's a KO38, this one. And it's just described as a damaged two corner. And this one was just £7.95 with its delivery. So, I mean, to me, I thought that's ideal, because I'd sold a few bits myself and I got a bit of money, and I thought, yeah, I can make something out of these. So I don't just necessarily look at what they are, I think about what I can do with them. And so that's the first two parts. And then the slightly bigger one is NO3, which is described as a damaged shop. That's something like what it looks like, but then there's two other corner pieces on it that you can build to make one wrecked building. But to be honest, what appealed to me about it when I saw it is that I might well be able to get perhaps two or even three separate little scatter terrains out of that. So that, represented a good value to me. And I think I only paid £9.95, and then obviously like £3 delivery. So that's basically what I've gone for these for. And what I'll do now is I'll start a build process and show you, what I find as I go along, any problems or issues. and then hopefully, you know, you'll get a good idea of what you can do with these and whether they're for you or not. So I'll sign off there, and then I'll clear my desk and you can join me at the building process. As I say, this is going to be, I think, you know, because I'm building these 3 buildings, I'm going to make it a 2-part video. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to build all 3, because they're only small, in this first video, and get them prepared and ready to start being worked on. And then in video 2, I'll take them through to the, you know, ready for the battlefield. So with that, I'll clear my desk and I'll see you shortly. So I've brought you to my kitchen. So don't say I don't take you anywhere interesting. This is a bit of an outside broadcast. So anyway, what I'm here for, it's not just for the excitement of being in the kitchen. It's to start washing all of these parts for each model. I'm making sure I keep them separate at this stage so I don't mix them up to give myself a bit of a headache when I'm putting them together. And I've just ran some warm water, not too hot. Just put all the parts in. And then what I do is I just put a small drop of washing up liquid in. Doesn't need to be a lot, that'll do. And then what I do is I use an old toothbrush to rub all the parts and go through all of the textures to make sure anything that they've used to get it out of a mould or any chemicals that might react with the paint or the glue are off. To be honest, I've not really encountered many where it has made a big difference. You know, there's whether some are pre-cleaned before they come, I don't know, but this is just something I do because when you do get one go wrong, you really regret not having done this stage. So, as I say, you don't need to overdo the washing up liquid. It's just to help to break it down, anything that's been left on it. It also gives you a bit of a look at all the parts as well, so you can see if there's any bits that you're going to need to tidy up and just put that in there and make a mental note of it to come back to it. Well, as you can see, that was quite some washing session, because obviously I've got these 3 destroyed sections of buildings with all their parts, and then the original 2 Arnhem buildings there. So I've had to give every single one of these a scrub in warm soapy water and then rinse them thoroughly. I'm just letting them dry a bit out here now. Right, so the washing and the drying is done, and I've got the first of the models on my desk ready to start. So they've been, as I say, washed and cleaned. I have took off odd bits of the any flash that are there, but no doubt I might come across a little bit as I go along. So what I thought I'd do for this first part is have a look at putting this one together. It looks like a very clever little system, really, because basically what it is a series of very similar parts or duplicate parts and then rearranged to make a different model. So, you know, that being the case, I would imagine it'd be very easy, really, to get a few of these kits together and really come up with something different. Now, for the time being, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the suggested model, because I think that's the best way for me to go at the moment. And we'll see how we go along. But as you can see, there's a series of parts that basically are identical. So it's obviously like a mould system, which is very clever. And, you know, it's a kind of a Lego approach to model making. And I bet it really works well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this one comes together. And as I say, I'll probably on this occasion build all three of them to the actual instructions. But in the future, if ever was to go back down this line and buy more of these products from Microworld, I might actually pull a few together and then have a bit of a play with it and come up with some of my own ideas. Right, so what I've actually got out is my sharp knife for taking off any flash, little collection of files in case I need to file anything off, a small collection of clamps for holding some of the bits together, and with these I'm going to go for super glue, and in some cases the accelerator for the super glue. Right, so the actual one that we're going to be starting on, because this is the instructions for two, is this one, which is like a shop front. You may remember seeing it from the unboxing. So the first thing it's asking me to do is put one of these with one of these, like that. So let's just have a look at how it actually fits and see if it sits well. Check to see if there's anything that I don't want on there. Sorry about that, that's my dog Bobby, who's just letting me know that now is a good time for him to come in. So I'll be back in a second. Sorry about that, but when Bob decides it's time to come in, it's time to come in. Right, let's start with this first part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp this using one of these. Right, I'm sure you'll be relieved to hear that I'm not going to make you sit and watch all through this as I slowly put it together. But what I'll do is I'll just speed it up so you can see what's happening, and then I'll bring you back at the end. Right, so I've completed this first one now, and yeah, it's gone together fairly well. There's a bit fiddly on some of the corners, but interesting to build though. There are a few gaps still, even though I've pulled it up tight, but again, I mean, they're not unexpected. You'd get them on any model really, but the fact that this is resin, you know, I'm surprised that there's not more. So on the whole, I'm pretty pleased with it, to be honest. I mean, all it's going to matter, all it's going to mean doing is putting a little bit of green stuff in there just to hide a bit of the obvious gap in. But it's not that bad. You know what I mean? Probably once you put the paint and primer on it, a lot of it would be gone anyway. But I think, you know, just for my own sake, I'm going to do it anyway because I want to make sure that that gap's gone. And it's the best time to do it before, obviously, I start priming it. There are some slight alignment things, and no matter how much I squeezed and you know, tried to pull it together and pull it across, it didn't quite come perfect. But to be honest, this is a bombed out building, so realistically, it's not an issue. You know, it really doesn't show that badly. So, but rather than worrying about any little imperfections that it's got now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one to one side now and move on to the other two by Microworld. Then when I've got them all done, I'll do any patching that I think I need to do on all three at once, and then that way I can get them all ready for priming at the same stage. But all in all, I'm pretty pleased with it, and the actual building, it looks really interesting. You know, it's going to look good on the table, and as damaged buildings go, there's plenty of playability with it. And as I say, I haven't even started, you know, personalising it yet. So, you know, what slight imperfections I'm seeing, they're going to disappear once it's painted up. So anyway, I'll put that to one side and I'll get the next one out and then I'll bring you back. So we're on to the second building. And this one looks like just the corner of a building. So there's not quite as much going on this one as there was on the last one. So again, I've just laid out the bits so I can see what I've got. And looking at part one, it's the hole in the wall that's got to be glued together. Looking at it, there's no obvious flashing at the minute that I've got to take off. I'll speed this up through the next build because you've seen the basics, and I'll just stop at some of the interesting points. One thing I've noticed on these windows, and whether you can see it on the drawing, there they are. They look like they've got cross pieces in as well, whereas the actual window doesn't, because obviously it's got the broken glass. That's the second building complete. You're starting to see how it'll all come together. I'm really liking it. I'm looking forward to the actual decorating process, that's for sure. But probably have that one. You could even put them up if you wanted to, but obviously you'd be wasting that, so probably have it like that. A little pathway through. Add some pile of rubble just here, that'd look good. It's going to go well on the Arnhem table, I think. Looking forward to it. Right, let's put that one to one side. And that one to one side. Alright, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to quickly tidy my table again. And then we'll bring the third and final one in to start work on. Right, so we're on the third and final building from Microworld. This one it describes as NO3 damage shop. Now I must admit to feeling I was a little bit befuddled by this one at first, for the simple reason, I mean it's probably my fault as much as anything, but I looked at this picture and was thinking of that pretty much as the whole thing, and this, but what I'm not thinking about is there's no picture showing it complete. So it's actually in 3 parts. So you got the front part, and then the back part is made up of 2 pieces. I think what it was is I was expecting to see a picture on the actual plan, you know, that would show it complete in its entirety, and I was assuming that was the completion, but it's not. It's just partly the part build. It hasn't got a picture of the complete thing. So that aside, let's crack on with this bit. Now you've seen me doing all this before, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly speed through it again, and I'll just stop at any points of interest. Just looking at this wall for this first piece, and I don't know whether you can see that on there. Let's try and light it up a bit. And you can just about make out that there's some little imperfections on about 3 or 4 of these bricks. But to be honest, it doesn't really bother me, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shave that corner out of that brick, because in actual fact it could actually look like bullet holes. If it wasn't for the fact that they don't appear on the other one, I would think, you know, that's what it might have been. But by making the pattern a little bit more obscure, by putting in a few of my own, I'm going to turn that into a positive. So it really isn't a big issue. So that's the last one complete. This one's obviously in 3 pieces, which makes up a complete wrecked building like that. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to use these yet. I might, you know, try and squeeze it into something else. So I might mount that one and then build a rubble pile, and maybe even get another piece out of these and make it a separate building, or even 3 separate. Not quite sure yet, but I'll be looking forward to playing around with them and seeing what I can do. But as you see, it's gone together. So that brings us back to the beginning. And all three of the micro world buildings are complete. So the next stage that I'm going to be going to is I've already mixed up some green stuff, and the odd gaps that I pointed out to you as I was going along, I'm going to be filling them with some, thin roll of green stuff and then smooth it in. And I'm going to just go around each building in turn, and any obvious gaps that I don't like the look of, I'll fill in with that. And then the other thing that occurred to me, I think it was on this building, when I pointed out that there was a couple of air bubbles and I turned it into some bullet holes. Well, that's given me the idea really that at this stage maybe I ought to do something like that to these, before I come to priming them. So that's something else I might be looking at. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some of the green stuff in and patch some of these, and then I'll bring you back and show you what I've done. Won't be a second. So I just thought I'd show you a little bit of how I go about putting this green stuff in. I've torn a little piece off that I've mixed. I would imagine that nearly everybody's familiar with this stuff. Green stuff. It comes in a strip, and it's blue and yellow, and you mix that until it turns to green, and then it's ready to use, and it'll set. They activate each other. So what I'm going to do now is roll this into a long thin sausage for this gap along the middle. It's not going to need a lot. It's always handy to have a little bit of water on hand when you're doing this. It stops it sticking to your fingers while you're working with it. Takes me back to the plasticine days, this does. That'll do. And then what I'm going to do, turn this. Now the most obvious gap is in this top one. So I'll lay it on that gap. You don't have to try and do it all in one length. I mean, I'm just doing it this way, but you don't have to. You can, do a little bit at a time. And might be areas like this end where you've got to make it a bit thicker. So I just roll it back on itself. And then what I've got some green stuff. They're called brushes, but basically it's for sculpting the green stuff. And what I'm going to do now is ease this into place and smooth it in so it's got a firm hold. If I bring that a bit closer, see just about in that top row. And obviously once that's primed, it's just going to disappear completely. And what I'm going to do is just work along the entire gap now, roll some more to put into it, and then you just got to leave it to set, and it will set as hard as the plastic, and it's like it was never there. So it's brilliant stuff. Right, it won't be a second. Right, so I've put green stuff in all of the parts that I wanted to on this one. You can probably see the traces of it along here. It's on the major joint really, and I've took off most of the excess or smoothed it out so none of it will show once it's been primed. And that's just filled some obvious gaps that I'd got. There aren't many of them. There are a few on the inside that I'm just not going to bother with because the paint will do most of the job for that. But yeah, so that's that one complete. And what I'm going to do is I'll do the same to any of these. I mean, this one's got a bit of a gap there. I'll get them done, and then I'll bring you back. Right, so I've filled all the gaps that I was bothered about, not many. As usual, I've mixed up too much green stuff. It doesn't matter how much you try and, you know, you pick out a smaller and smaller amount each time because you don't want to waste it. And every time I still end up with some over. So I've just had a bit of an idea. I've not tried it yet, so you're going to see if it works. Basically, I've got a lot of miniature bricks like this that I use for rubble. I'm not going to be applying them now, obviously, because they're not even painted, which look really good with the rubble. But what I could really do with is some bigger pieces of broken down building. So what I thought I'd do, I'd got a bit of scrap foam on my desk, so I broke it into little pieces, and then I've smeared what was left of my green stuff over each one in different shapes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just press it against the brickwork and take a bit of an impression. Let's see. It's sticking all right, but can I get it off okay? Yeah. And that'll give me a bigger piece of rubble to mix in with the rest. So I thought it's just better than wasting the green stuff altogether. So I'll take another impression here. There we go, and whether you can see that. And once that's, I know it's the reverse pattern in a way, but it doesn't matter because once I've actually, you know, painted it up and covered it and then put dust on it, you'll just see the brick pattern, so it won't matter. I'll do some of the other ones as well. There we go. That's that one. As I say, I know the mortar, you know, it's standing out from the brick, but once that's painted up, trust me, it'll look fine. Because you're going to be mixing it in with a lot of other rubble anyway. But it just helps it, you know, along with the little bricks, it does make it look a little bit more Well, I say that, I mean, I've only just had the idea, so I'm hoping it's going to work, but it looks like it would to me. It looks... Well, it's better than wasting the green stuff anyway, so I'm going to give that a try. And I'll just let that dry at the same time as these, and in video 2, when I'm looking at the decorating of these, I'll bring these back in and you can see with me whether it's worked or not. There we go. Right, so that's, as I say, all 3 buildings complete. And what I'm going to do now is sign off. And in video 2, we'll look at decorating these as a set and bring them up towards being finished, ready for the battle table. So thanks a lot for joining me. I hope you found some of it useful, at least. As I say, as a review, I'm not a serious reviewer. I'm simply really sharing what I think of these, and I've got no kind of connection with the company or anything else. It's just, this is my opinion, this is what I think of them, this is what I'll do. Other people are going to think different. Everybody's got their preferences, but to me, these fit in very well with my hobby, and it lets my imagination run, and that's good enough for me. I'll make of them what I can make of them, and at the price, for me, because I need to think about my budget, I'm happy, because I've got, a few new bits to put on the table, and I'm going to have fun with them, bringing them up to the battle table. So, I'd, me personally, I'd give these Microworld buildings a thumbs up. I think they definitely fill a little niche, especially in the wrecked building department. And well, we'll see what I can do with them anyway. I think this is the longest video to date, so if you have stuck with me to the very end, thanks very much for persevering. Hopefully you've found something useful, something interesting. If you have, please consider giving me a thumbs up, and why not subscribe so you can see how these turn out in the next video. Bye.